So the news just dropped that OpenAI has officially introduced a form of self-improvement for ChatGPT, with a new page on their website introducing the new CriticGPT, which features lots of details, limitations, and a paper explaining everything in depth. This announcement represents a huge milestone within the AI development space, as for the first time ever the concept of an AI helping to improve itself has now become our reality. So what are the details of this new CriticGPT? Let's take a look into this. So this new model is called CriticGPT, and they say on their page that this model is based on GPT-4 and is trained to catch errors in ChatGPT's code output. They go on to say that they are beginning the work to integrate CriticGPT-like models into their RLHF labeling pipeline, and this basically means that when they've got a team of people evaluating GPT's outputs, they are helping these people using AI assistance. And they also add that as ChatGPT gets more accurate and advanced, it can become more difficult for the AI trainers to spot these inaccuracies, basically saying that it's getting so good that sometimes even the humans are missing the errors that GPT is making. And so to tackle this problem, OpenAI have developed CriticGPT, and they do give a real-world example here. They give GPT a prompt asking it to write a Python function that takes an input as a string representing a file path and returns a file object, along with some other specifics there. And this is the solution that GPT-4 has presented them. And now when they run this through CriticGPT, this new model checks through the code and manages to find an issue with it. It highlights the line that uses a starts with function and states that this method of doing things is insecure and that users could exploit this using specific tricks. And then just to top that off, it even provides alternative solutions for this issue, stating a method that will get the same result but without the insecurities it found. And despite this model sounding like a miracle, they do note that its suggestions are not always correct, but they believe that with this model the trainers are able to catch many more problems, so they think the overall result of this is positive. And then they provide these graphs showing the full benefit of CriticGPT. The graph on the left shows what they're calling the comprehensiveness of critiques, and then the graph on the right shows the number of hallucinations in terms of making a problem up, showing that a human plus CriticGPT seems to be getting better results than either of the other two alone, and also showing that CriticGPT hallucinates more than a human, which makes a lot of sense. And they do talk a little bit about the methods they use to achieve these results. They say that CriticGPT was trained similarly to ChatGPT, but unlike ChatGPT, it saw a large number of inputs that contained mistakes which it then had to critique. So they're basically saying that they are purposefully feeding it incorrect data which it had to critique, which they didn't do with ChatGPT. And an interesting statistic that they state is that they find CriticGPT critiques are preferred by trainers over ChatGPT critiques in 63% of cases, and they believe that this is because CriticGPT produces fewer nitpicks, small complaints that are unhelpful, and as well as that you get what you'd expect, that they are able to generate longer and more comprehensive critiques as well. So although that all does sound very good, they do also talk about some of the limitations, which I think is very important to note. And so they pointed out 4 limitations. With the first one, they said that they trained CriticGPT on ChatGPT answers that are quite short, and go on to say that in the future they will need to develop methods that can help trainers understand long and more complex tasks. So basically they need to have a think about how they can take CriticGPT to the next level and train it on larger problems without wasting loads of human time trying to get the results. The second limitation, they say that the models still hallucinate and sometimes trainers make labeling mistakes after seeing those hallucinations. So a bit of what you'd expect, something that we see with every language model. In this case the model is creating problems that aren't even really problems and pointing out things that otherwise should be perfectly fine in the code. They also say that sometimes real-world mistakes can be spread across many parts of an answer, but for CriticGPT it only focuses on errors that are pointed out in one place. But they say that in the future they want to be able to tackle dispersed errors as well, as in real-world situations errors in code may not just be one line like CriticGPT is looking for, it may be spread out across many lines. And then for a final limitation, they say that CriticGPT can can only help so much, and that if a task is extremely complex, even an expert with the model's help may not be able to evaluate it, which personally I don't really see this as a limitation right now, because I feel like this one kind of goes without saying. And then just to end it off, they do say that they'll need better tools in the future, but generally speaking they are planning to scale this work further and put it into practice. So very impressive stuff here. And I think the reason this announcement is particularly crazy is because there's always been talk of artificial intelligence starting to develop itself and help work on itself, and I think most people generally thought that we'd be waiting until AGI to see this happening, but clearly OpenAI have had an idea here on how they can use their own work to make their models a lot better. And based on the graphs and statistics on their page here, it seems like what they're doing is really working and providing a bit of boost to improve ChatGPT and decrease the hallucinations that it suffers with. And another reason that this is particularly important is that there's been a lot of talk recently about how although models are improving, hallucinations are still occurring. It seems like no one had a proper solution, but again here it seems like OpenAI might have come up with something that might just fix it. At least if it's not a cure, it might help to make it a lot better. But do leave a comment, as I'm interested to know what you guys think about all this. But if you're still listening, I really appreciate you. Like and subscribe if you can, it really helps me out, and thanks for watching.